The 21 trillion black budget. Where did the money go? $21 trillion disappeared from US government accounts, and not a single person was held accountable. $21 trillion. That number is so large it barely feels real. It's more than the entire US national debt at the time it was discovered. It's enough to give every single American citizen over $60,000. And according to official government documents, it simply cannot be accounted for. This isn't a conspiracy theory. This is what the numbers say. And tonight, we're going to follow that money as far as anyone has been allowed to go and ask the question that accountants, journalists, and whistleblowers have been asking for decades. Where exactly did it go? By the end of this video, you'll understand how a financial black hole of this magnitude was created, why it may never be fully explained, and what some very serious researchers believe it has been quietly funding. Stay with me, because this gets stranger the deeper you go. The story begins not with a leak or a scandal, but with a law. In 1990, the US Congress passed the Chief Financial Officers Act, requiring every federal agency to submit to annual independent audits. Standard practice, basic accountability, the kind of thing every government on Earth should do. The Pentagon ignored it for 27 years. It wasn't until 2018 that the Department of Defense completed its very first full audit. They failed it comprehensively, and buried inside the findings was something that had already been surfacing in fragments for years, a figure so staggering that most mainstream outlets didn't know how to cover it without sounding like they'd lost their minds. The number was 21 trillion in what the government calls undocumentable adjustments. Entries made to Pentagon and Department of Housing and Urban Development accounts between 1998 and 2015 that have no supporting documentation, no invoices, no contracts, no paper trail. The person who first drew serious public attention to this was Dr. Mark Skidmore, a professor of economics at Michigan State University. In 2017, Skidmore and his team analyzed government reports from the Office of Inspector General and found these figures hiding in plain sight in documents that had been publicly available, largely unread, for years. Let that land for a moment. This wasn't hidden in a vault. It was sitting in federal reports that anyone could download. Here's where the story shifts from financial scandal to something far more unsettling. After Skidmore published his findings, something unusual happened. The Office of Inspector General, the very office that had produced the original report Skidmore used as his source material, quietly took those documents offline. The data he had used to build his case simply vanished from government servers. When it reappeared, key figures had been revised or removed entirely. Skidmore flagged this publicly. The government's response was essentially a shrug. The figures, they said, were administrative errors, accounting quirks, the kind of thing that happens in large organizations. But $21 trillion worth of accounting quirks in a single department? To put this in perspective, the entire US military budget across those same years totaled approximately $9 trillion. The undocumented adjustments were more than double the entire defense budget. These weren't rounding errors. Something was moving enormous sums of money through federal accounts and leaving no trace. What investigators found next shocked everyone. When Michigan State researchers dug deeper, they discovered that some individual account transactions had been adjusted by hundreds of billions of dollars in a single entry, single line items, no description, no authorization trail that could be independently verified. One entry alone, a single adjustment to an Army account in 2015, totaled $6.5 trillion. The entire US Army budget that year was approximately $122 billion. That adjustment was 53 times larger than the Army's entire annual budget, entered as a single line with no documentation. If you're finding this as disturbing as I am, hit that like button and subscribe, because what we're about to get into is where this story becomes genuinely hard to explain. Dr. Skidmore isn't alone in raising these concerns. Catherine Austin Fitts, a former Assistant Secretary of Housing and Urban Development under President George H.W. Bush, has spent over 2 decades documenting what she calls the missing money. Fitts, who has a background in investment banking and government finance, argues that these figures point to something far more organized than bureaucratic incompetence. Her position is that a parallel financial system exists, one that siphons money out of official accounts through the labyrinthine complexity of defense contracting, classified budget lines, and what are known as Special Access Programs, or SAPs. SAPs are real. They are officially acknowledged. They are classified defense programs that operate outside normal oversight channels, even, in some cases, outside the knowledge of sitting members of Congress. The existence of unacknowledged SAPs, sometimes called black programs, is not disputed. The question is their scale and what they're actually doing. Former congressional staffer and intelligence budget analyst Stephen Aftergood, who runs the Federation of American Scientists Project on Government Secrecy, has confirmed that the classified budget, commonly called the black budget, runs to tens of billions of dollars per year in acknowledged figures alone. What lies beneath those acknowledged figures is, by definition, unknown. So where did the money go? There are 3 serious theories, each with genuine evidence behind it. The first is systemic bureaucratic failure. The Pentagon's accounting systems are notoriously fragmented, built on decades of incompatible legacy software, some of it dating back to the 1970s. Under this theory, the $21 trillion figure reflects genuine accounting chaos rather than intentional misdirection. Transactions were duplicated, shifted between accounts, and recorded incorrectly at a massive scale. The 2018 audit failure supports this. It's the least dramatic explanation, and possibly the most embarrassing. The second theory is the controlled extraction of funds into classified programs. Under this model, the accounting irregularities aren't errors. They're a mechanism. Money is moved through official accounts, obscured through layered adjustments, and redirected into programs that don't officially exist. This could include advanced aerospace technology, directed energy research, or programs related to what the government now officially calls unidentified aerial phenomena. The timing matters here. The UAP disclosure era began almost precisely as scrutiny of the black budget intensified. The third theory is the most extreme, and the one with the fewest named sources willing to go on record. It suggests that some portion of this money has been funding the study, reverse engineering, or concealment of non-human technology. This is the theory you'll find in the testimony of people like David Grush, the former intelligence official who told Congress under oath in 2023 that the US government has possession of non-human craft and biological material. Grush specifically alleged that funding for these programs was concealed from congressional oversight, exactly the mechanism Skidmore and Fitz had been describing for years. Here is the most disturbing part of all of this. It's not the missing money. It's not even the classified programs. It's this: the legal framework that would allow such a system to exist is already in place. The National Security Act of 1947 contains provisions that allow the CIA to spend money without public accounting. The 1959 unacknowledged SAP guidelines allow certain programs to be legally withheld even from most of Congress. And the False Statements Act has specific exemptions for classified programs. In other words, if this system exists, it may not be illegal. It may have been legal the entire time. The money didn't disappear into chaos. It may have disappeared into a system that was specifically designed to be invisible. $21 trillion, no accountability, no arrests, no real answers. What we do know is this: the figures are real, the documents existed, and the people who found them faced immediate institutional resistance when they tried to bring them to light. Whether this points to catastrophic incompetence, a shadow funding apparatus, or something even further beyond what most of us are willing to consider, that is a question that deserves a serious answer. Thank you for watching. I want to know what you think. Is this the largest accounting scandal in human history, or is it something far more deliberate? Drop your answer in the comments. I read every one. If this video made you think, please like and subscribe. New investigations go up every week, and trust me, the next one is something you will not want to miss.